Okay, TV guide from December 13th of 1986. You know me, I cover mostly 70s and 80s. If you want me to do a couple 90s, I might. I picked this one because this is Christmas season, so I was kind of curious what kind of Christmas specials might have been on in 1986. Maybe we'll see some of those in this issue. We got James Garner and Jim Woods sitting in a boat. And I guess they're in some movie called Promise. What do we got? First thing, first ad. What kind of ad do we have here? Yeah, I don't focus a lot on the pay channels, but this is a pretty cool HBO ad here. Looks like they're touting what's coming up in 1987, which is right around the corner. Romancing the Stone was a great movie. White Nights was great, although pure Cold War propaganda, as it turns out. Best game shows and the worst. Yeah, you know me, I don't linger too long on these articles, but there's plenty to look at in every one of these. We learn something new in every one of these. That's a Chevy Nova in 1986. Look at that thing. For $8 grand. And probably would last way longer than modern cars if you were able to get that now. Get some Fruit of the Looms at Kmart like Rain Man. There's these weird commentaries. Yeah, most buyers of the TV guide mostly got it for the guide itself, but some people did read these articles. VCRs were big at that time, so it looks like you could get Betamax or VHS at Kmart. Talking about some of the TV shows that are filming in Chicago, it looks like. I talked about this Crime Story show in another episode. Really dug that show when I was a kid. Scott Baio again. Saw him in a 1978. It's the girl from Hunter with Shaka Khan. That's funny. Look at the hairspray that would be required to make your hair do that. Yeah, I don't go through every single thing I see here. There's a guy from Perfect Strangers. They always have a page about the soap operas. Here's Howie Long when he was young, in case you don't know. Oh, this was interesting. I saw these in one of the other ones. They have one page about like what's coming out on VHS, which is kind of interesting. So let's look at that. Desert Hearts is a great movie. Just discovered that movie a couple years ago, and it's an outstanding movie. Dream Lover, Christy McNichol. There must be some kismet going on, because Christy McNichol keeps popping up in my videos. Let's see what else. Cheers and Jeers. I do remember this page from TV Guide. They would have their cheers, which were kind of fun, but the jeers were always more interesting as usual. Oh, they didn't have any jeers this month, I guess. It was all cheers. Another cigarette ad. Pressure rises to promote use of condoms. Why would you want to read TV Guide to find that out? Movies and sports. Here's the rundown of the pay channels. I'm just scanning this real quick to see if I see anything. There's plenty to talk about, but I just Funny Girl, Barbara Streisand. High Anxiety is a fun Mel Brooks movie. So it looks like a little more than what used to be. So it looks like it's, you know, cable is growing in the late 80s. Soon to take over in the 90s. That's why I kind of am going to mostly cover 70s and 80s, because I like the broadcast TV era. So this particular TV guide I got my hands on here serves the Michigan area. So you got a few different markets in Michigan, so that's why you're going to have multiple channels listed, because this one TV guide covers all those. Saturday morning. We got to talk about Saturday morning cartoons a little bit. If you were getting up early, I think that was the actual Dukes of Hazzard show. I don't think the cartoon was 60 minutes long. Computer Chronicles, Muppet Show, probably reruns coming on at 7:30. Laser Tag Academy, that's a snapshot into the 80s right there. Yeah, so it must have been, the good stuff must have started at 8, because I definitely remember Bernstein Bears being one of the first things on in the morning that I would watch. Gummy Bears, I loved that show when I was a kid, cartoon. I wasn't a Care Bears guy. Muppet Babies. There was something intriguing about that show, even though I didn't really love it. There was something intriguing about it. Smurfs was good. 90 Minutes. Flintstone Kids, I never watched that one. Pee-wee's Playhouse. What a groundbreaking show at that time. I think this was the first season of Pee-wee's Playhouse in '86. Yeah, here we go. We got a Christmas parade coming on. So this would have been December 13th. Ted McGinley, Marilyn McCoo. Teen Wolf cartoon. I never saw that. I loved Alvin and the Chipmunks. That's probably why I never saw Teen Wolf, because I would absolutely be glued to whatever channel Alvin and the Chipmunks was on. Richie Rich, I used to like that cartoon. His Dog Dollar. Good gags on that show. It's like him having way more money than he needed. Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, that would have been huge in the 80s. Football on Saturday, because it's late in the season, kind of makes sense. Did the Niners win it in '86? I don't think they did, but I don't remember. There's Doctor Who. It might be the original one that people love. I don't know Doctor Who. Guess up in Connecticut, they would show high school basketball on TV all the way back in '86, which is pretty wild. But it is the championship game. Check it out. If you want to know what the lineup for DePaul and Louisville is, here's every player and their height, it looks like. Movie marathon. So yeah, the few channels you would have your big three, or on the UHF, and then on the VHF dial you'd have higher channels that would show like old movies and stuff like that. So here's a rundown of some old movies. Saturday night in 1986. Let's see if we can spot any Christmas related stuff as we go through this. Michigan might have been a different time zone, so prime time might have been different. I don't know for sure. But Saturday night we got The Facts of Life. We got 227. We watched 227 in my household. Sledgehammer was a hilarious show. Golden Girls, soon to become a classic at that time. Brand new show, pretty much. Hunter was a fun show. He had that tagline, "It works for me." I'm hoping I don't miss any like Christmas specials, but I don't see anything on this page. Well, there's a Christmas Carol. I'm guessing that would have been like the live action. So there we go. They're showing some Christmas stuff on Saturday night. Just scanning this because I don't want to spend too much time on this page. Here's that Christmas parade again. Street Hawk. Seems like I should remember that show. Sometimes, as you know, if you've seen in my other videos, they have like ads and stuff that'll remind us about some of these shows. The full roster of the Skins and the Broncos in 1986. Take a screenshot if you want to know who was there. Joe Theismann was still there. Oh no, that's Thielman. Like Schrader, Jay Schrader was a QB at that time, maybe. I was a fan of that team, still am. But in the 80s, they had a great lineup. They had Darryl Green. They had, what were the guys called? The receivers. They had some name for the receivers, the Fun Bunch or something. All right, keep an eye out for any Christmas specials while we're here. Anne of Green Gables coming on Saturday night. Hee Haw. I wonder if Hee Haw, I guess it was still on in 86. Reba McEntire, Loretta Lynn, Pat Boone. Hee Haw was a cultural sort of collective cultural thing in the 70s and early 80s for sure. Brought us all together. Dance Fever. Saturday night, huh? Adrian Zemed, and he sings a song. That's pretty funny. Fame was still on. Wild Wild West Revisited. Check that out. I think that's the original actor. This would have been like 20 years later, because I think that was on in the late 60s. Did you know there was a Wild Wild West Revisited movie in 1986? Now you know. Street Hawk really rings a bell. Upstairs, downstairs, that rings a bell as well. Check out Paul Newman. How cool is he? All right, now we're in early Sunday. Just taking a quick look to see if there's anything crazy on, like in the middle of the night. I mean, it's always going to be old movies. Don't see anything stands out. There's Anne again, Anne of Green Gables. That actress almost looks familiar. Batman coming on. In syndication, that probably would have been the 60s show on Sunday morning in Connecticut. I don't remember seeing that in the 80s where I was. All right, when we get to prime time, there's always something interesting to look at. Here's another holiday special. Looks pretty boring. Luciano Pavarotti. The kids probably wouldn't be tuning in for that. That looks like John Williams. Yeah, that's John Williams, the guy who composed all the great music we love, from Star Wars, from Superman, from Jaws. All right, Sunday evening. Again, Pink Panther's Christmas. Valerie in Easy Street. A lot of movies. So it looks like Sunday night at this time was a time to just show movies. Siskel and Ebert and then Pink Panther's Christmas would have been fun. Nutcracker, probably on PBS, I would guess. G.I. Jive, wonder what that is. I hope I don't miss any Christmas specials, but I'm sure I will. It's hard to look at all this and also keep things moving here. Baryshnikov on Broadway with Liza. Liza, so much talent, so much charisma. They don't make them like Liza anymore. Judy Garland's daughter became a huge star herself, and deservedly so. Here we go. Ed Asner, Christmas Star. Some kids, I don't recognize any of those. So there's a funky movie that probably is not a perennial classic. But at least they were making new stuff back then. Just scanning to see if I recognize any of these names. I don't. There's that White Nights movie we were talking about. Gregory Hines, great actor from the 80s. He's also in Running Scared, True Gift of Christmas. There's that Promise movie that was on the cover. There's Anne of Green Gables, made for Canadian TV in '85. So maybe a lot of Canadian actors and actresses, but some of them might have become stars in Hollywood. As the World Turns. Funny. Wow, they get a full page ad for 48 Hours TV premiere, maybe. And there's that Promise movie. That almost rings a bell now. Nutcracker Ballet. Here we go. Dolly's got a Christmas special. That's awesome. Also starring Lee Majors. Bet that's fun. Directed by Fonz. Let's see what Pink Panther's doing on Christmas. He's down and out in Central Park. He's having a blue Christmas. He's starving. He's half frozen. Tune in to find out what happens. I'm not going to spoil it. Hopefully you know by my videos I'm joking half the time. Having fun. We're looking at some great old stuff from our television history. I bet there might have been some Christmas specials on like in the day. Here's Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. Bet that was great in 1986. Yeah, I bet this TV guide, I'm sure I'm skipping half of it, probably has some great Christmas stuff that maybe caught on, but maybe was just something they did that year and is lost to history. Glow Friends Save Christmas cartoon. The Wicked Witch. I wonder what the Glow Friends were. That's the one we should look up. Guess it was some cartoon. Child's program called Polka Dot Door. Oh, we're into Monday, so I should probably pay closer attention. Well, I'll catch it on Tuesday, I guess, but here we go. We're into the era of Thundercats. So 1986. You were my age, you were watching the Thundercats. After school, 4 o'clock. We weren't watching Quincy, we were watching Thundercats. She-Ra was awesome. G.I. Joe, we know everybody watched that. All right, yeah, looks like we got Christmas stuff on just about every night. I was looking more for like the classic specials that we all know, but we got Mickey's Christmas Carol. That is a great classic. If you don't have that on DVD or don't have a copy of that, that's a great one. Mickey's Christmas Carol. Just seeing what else is on that may not be Christmas related that's worth talking about. Cagney and Lacey was still going in '86. Nuclear Legacy. That ship has sailed. Let's see what else. I thought I saw something else Christmas related, but maybe it was all just this Mickey's Christmas Carol on several different channels. And again, that's because of the different markets. So you would only have one of those channels where you were living. Don't see any other Christmas stuff at the glance here. All right. MASH reruns. Klinger. Wonderful World of Disney. Just checking to see if they have... Wow, check that out. Full ad for that show I was talking about. Yeah, that's a classic in my mind. Here's a great ad. These shows were popular. These two shows were definitely popular. I think that was the girl from Mork and Mindy. Kate and Allie was big. My Sister Sam was big. Everybody loved Newhart for some reason. Kavanaugh's was not big. May have only lasted a season or two. Babar and Father Christmas. Does anybody remember that one? I certainly don't. There we go. Rudolph's Shiny New Year. So those are those funky ones, not the main Rudolph, but those were great. To catch those like on, yeah, you'd have to be looking at channel 66. You'd have to be just flipping around on VHF, and luck your way into seeing Rudolph's Shiny New Year. So that's great. That's the kind of stuff I was thinking of when I was wanting to crack this TV guide open. And I'll bet there's a couple more like that I may just not catch my eye. This looks super boring. This looks interesting because it might have something to do with the Soviet Union, which doesn't exist anymore. Just checking what else here. We got Mickey's Christmas Carol, MacGyver, Rock and Roll Evening News. Run DMC performs and David Lee Roth. That sounds awesome. Never heard of Rock and Roll Evening News. The 80s was producing so much crazy good stuff. First Christmas, Angela Lansbury. Oh, it's a cartoon with Angela Lansbury probably doing some voice acting. That's interesting. I'm giving you tons of stuff to look up here. Probably find half of this on YouTube for free. Leprechaun's Christmas Gold. Art Carney. Definitely never heard of that. A Year in the Life. Best movie ever. Definitely some names there. That dude ended up on ER somewhere. Maybe? I don't know. Definitely some other faces I recognize there. Get some tape measures and some cameras. That's what cameras used to look like, folks. Oh, maybe that's a laser level or something. All right. I'm going a little slower on this one because I am looking for those Christmas specials, like A Year Without Santa Claus. Looks like in this market, channel 66 would be the go-to for looking at some awesome old Rankin and Bass Christmas specials. Cagney Lacey, absolute classic. Love these picture ads and these TV guides. Motor Week used to be a great show. All right, so this is fairly late. I doubt there'd be, looks like Simon Simonson was in syndication at that point. Late Night with Letterman at 1 a.m. Good luck staying up that late. If you're up at 2 a.m., you can watch Falcon Crest. All right, so this will be Tuesday morning. Inspector Gadget, one of my all-time favorites. Voiced by Don, what was his name? The guy from Get Smart. About to say Don Knotts, but that's not right. All right. Thought I just saw something Smurfs Christmas or something. I'm imagining Christmas specials now as we go through this. School break special. Let's see what's going on here. War between the classes. Budding romance between a Caucasian and a Japanese American. In the 80s, that was taboo. Give Me a Break. Might have been in reruns at that point. Benson. That was a fun show. Chuck Norris Karate Commandos cartoon. That's hilarious. Transformers cartoon. Yeah, everything great was on. Thundercats, G.I. Joe, Transformers. I have not seen, and maybe I've overlooked it, I haven't seen Voltron listed in any of these yet. And Voltron was definitely out in America in 84, 85, 86, but not in every market. If you don't know what Voltron is, where you been? All right, Tuesday evening. We've gone through some of these. I've gone through another 86, so we know about Who's the Boss. We know about Moonlighting. If you haven't looked up the intro music to Moonlighting, it's a great one that's kind of overlooked and forgotten. But let's see if there's any Christmas stuff. First Christmas, Year Without Santa Claus, Pistons versus Hawks. If it's staring me in my face and I miss it, you gotta cut me a break. Jack and Mike. White Christmas. And maybe that was the old original Bing Crosby or whatever. But yeah, but at least there's something Christmas related to watch every night, it looks like. Hardcastle and McCormick. What a great show. Running the old Star Treks. This would have been before the Next Generation premiered, so this would have been the only Star Trek in existence. The original, only 3 seasons from the 60s. I remember this show. We talked about this in one of my episodes. So this would have been Primetime Tuesday. Barney Miller. I think that would be a rerun at that point. Check this out. I think I've seen this movie and it's pretty terrible, but there's the original 2 guys from the Honeymooners in the 80s getting together again. Some great artwork here for the TV Guide. A Year in the Life. Don't know what that is, but it looks like it is a holiday special series. Let's see who's in it. It's another good thing about these TV guides. Yeah, it looks like Growing Pains got a Christmas special on their episode. Let's see if any of these names catch our eye. Sarah Jessica Parker. She would have been pretty young at that point. She was in that movie Red Dawn, I think. So she would have been in some movies. She was in Footloose, but this still would have been early in her career. She's in some movie called A Year in the Life. Google that one. Don't recognize any of these other names off the top of my head. So she was the star. Not in this show, but as it turns out. All right. Guessing most of the Christmas specials, the more child-focused ones would have been on earlier, so they probably wouldn't have been on at like 11 p.m. You'd probably be watching Computer Chronicles, even though only like one household in 100 had a computer. Oprah takes on why some people are depressed during the holiday season. Chuck Norris Karate Commandos again. I feel like that does kind of ring a bell. And again, the reason it comes on here, wherever we just saw it, and also here, is because it would be a different market that this TV guide is serving. So you wouldn't see that back to back wherever you were living. All right, here was one Wednesday night. Good thing about this era is the news would come on at 6, you wouldn't watch it, and then that was it. Maybe you watch again at 11, but it wasn't like 24-hour news polluting our brains. Let's see what's going on Wednesday night. Highway to Heaven, what a great show. I never watched it, but a lot of heart and soul in that show. And I appreciate it as I've gotten older. Dr. Zeus. I wonder if that was like the Grinch, because then it's followed by 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And that's a great 30-minute cartoon if you haven't seen it. It's another Rankin and Bass. Great special. If you don't remember that one, look it up. I have that one in my collection. Just seeing what else here. I'll bet that was the Grinch. They just say Dr. Zeus. Here's a cartoon called Snowman. Animated tale without dialogue. That's interesting. So maybe it was all music? Anyway. Alright, what else? Scrooge. I don't think that would have been the Bill Murray one at that point. I don't see anything else unless I just am overlooking it here. Little House. Just seeing if any of these regular shows have little Christmas episodes like Growing Pains did. Yeah, there's that 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Yeah, and Dr. Zeus was the Grinch. So that would be a great one too. It's probably where I saw that. I was probably watching the Grinch and then discovered this as a kid. Because this has been around since the 70s. But probably not as well known as like their Rudolph and all those. Highway to Heaven's got a Christmas-related episode. Magnum and the Equalizer, good 1-2 punch there. Head of the Class, a great show. I talked about that on the other episode. Benny Hill still on. I don't know when Benny Hill originally ran and when it turned to just all reruns. I feel like it must have ran in like the 70s, but I don't know. All right, Thursday. Family Ties. Brady Bunch and reruns. Y50, Super Friends. Let's see what's going on Thursday night. This Old House. So I wonder if that originally came on Thursday nights. So I think I would always watch that on the weekends. Thursday, as we know, in the 80s, NBC was just killing it. The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Cheers, Night Court, LA Law, Must See TV, I think they called it. Or maybe that was in the 90s, but you couldn't top that. Twilight Zone. Oh yeah, that might have been the 80s Twilight Zone, which is interesting. I think some people like that and some people don't, but I think it was pretty decent. Just scanning for Christmas stuff. I don't see much on Thursday night. Young Pioneers Christmas. Some kind of movie. Greatest Story Ever Told. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Don't see much else. Local news people. Don't remember there being ads like that in the TV guides, but Simon and Simon, great show. Yeah, there's that 80s Twilight Zone, which I think was pretty solid. Knots Landing. Young Pioneers Christmas 76. Some actors that I've not heard of. All right, that leaves Friday. Friday night in 86. There's one thing I hope I remember to look up here because I keep forgetting to look for it. Let's see if I remember. Babes in Toyland might have been Christmas related. I don't know. Looks like there's a Friday night football game. It's kind of weird. NFL, that is. See what else. It looks like the football game might have been on instead of like your normal Miami Vice and stuff. Don't see much else on Friday. Transformers at 5 p.m. Scarecrow and Mrs. King with Kate Jackson from Charlie's Angels. Drew Barrymore. That Babes in Toyland. Pat Morita and Drew Barrymore. There's one to look up. That's a trip. I never heard of that. Here's our NFL roster. The Niners from '86. Some guy named Kemp at quarterback. Yeah, that's a great ad here for that. Ellen Brennan's in it. Yeah, Drew Barrymore would have been the star for sure. Definitely never heard of that. Look at this, the Leprechaun's Christmas Gold. It's a pretty weird one. I have that one on DVD. It's one of those Rankin and Bass, but it's pretty oddball, I gotta admit. Rudolph Shiny New Year. All right, I do want to look for Friday night videos and talk about it if it's on, but I don't see it. Pretty sure it would have been on in '86. Don't see it in this TV guide though. Yeah, here we go. Gotta talk about this. Friday night videos. For those of us that did not have cable, didn't have MTV, this was about the only way to see music videos. They would play like a music video on like American Bandstand or Dance Fever, but they like play part of the video and then they just show people dancing. So the only way for us broadcast TV people to see music videos, which were the hugest thing ever in the 80s, was this show, Friday night at 12:30. I was about 12 or 13. It was almost impossible to stay up and stay awake to watch this because you'd have a full week of school. You'd be used to getting up, pretty early. Friday night comes, you'd watch your Miami Vice. You'd try to stay up for this. I remember staying up for this, always seeing the opening thing, and then usually falling asleep on like the first video. But yeah, that was an important, great show for those of us that did not have MTV. And it says, got some guest hosts, Van Halen, the Pointer Sisters, Bruce Springsteen, Janet Jackson, Don Johnson, and that terrible song he had. And it even tells you some of the songs. Yeah, this was where it was at. And unfortunately, it was very hard for someone my age to stay awake long enough because it didn't even come on until 12:30. So you had to stay up till like 1 or 2. I think it was 90 minutes. So you'd have to stay up till 2 to see them all. But an incredibly important show, a staple of the 80s. So crossword puzzle. Here's James Garner. There's another cigarette ad. I think at this point, if you've seen some of my other videos, they outlawed whiskey and alcohol ads. So unfortunately now, all we see are cigarette ads. We don't get to hop back and forth between our whiskey and our cigarettes, which was great fun in the earlier TV guides that I looked at. Lots of women's hygiene ads in each of these. Did you know back in the day, if you had a camera, you'd have to buy these flash bulbs and they like flash once and burn out? That's what those are. Some cameras had an automatic flash, a lot of them didn't. It's just another way for them to sell you something extra. That's pretty sharp looking. Brings us back to that era. It's kind of TV I had, 13-inch, black and white. Trying to stay up and watch Friday night videos. Here's some more cigarettes. There's that show we looked at earlier. I don't even remember what it was called now. Next week, we got Wilford Brimley. And last but not least, make your bets now on what the back cover is going to be. Come on, we didn't even have to bet. Thanks again. See you next time.